You're in a conversation, usually with somebody that matters to you, and something shifts. You're still talking, the words are still coming out, but something in you went quiet. You know what you wanted to say. You can almost reach it. And the more pressure that enters the conversation, the harder it becomes to find the version of yourself that was there a few minutes ago. Most people call this shutting down or overreacting or not knowing how to communicate. I don't think that's what's happening. What's happening starts earlier than communication, earlier than reaction. And if you've ever found yourself replaying a conversation afterward, wondering why you couldn't access what you knew in the moment, that's what we're going to explain now. Most people who experience this don't struggle with communication most of the time. At work, they're thoughtful. With friends, they're articulate. In everyday conversations, they're usually fine. Sometimes they're exceptionally good. And then a particular kind of conversation happens, usually with somebody they care about, partner, a parent, a close friend, someone whose opinion matters more than they'd like it to. And suddenly something changes. They explain more than they intended to, or they go quieter than they wanted, or they agree to something they didn't actually agree with. They say yes when the real answer was somewhere between yes and no. And they knew it. The version of themselves that they trusted most seems harder to find in those conversations than anywhere else. And the question that usually shows up is, what is wrong with me? It's an understandable question. However, it's also the wrong one. I'm Diane, and one of the things I've noticed is that people usually think they have a communication problem when something else is happening. That's what we're going to look at today. Nothing is wrong with you. What's happening has a mechanism. Pressure enters the conversation. Not necessarily conflict, not necessarily danger, just pressure. The pressure of disappointing someone, the pressure of being misunderstood, the pressure of losing connection, the pressure of something important being at stake. And before you've consciously decided how to respond, something else is already started happening. Access begins to narrow. Not access to your intelligence, not access to your values, not access to who you fundamentally are. Access to the part of you that can reach these things while the conversation is still happening. Your awareness is still there. Your knowledge is still there. But the pathway between what you know and what you can access in real time begins to narrow. This is what I call access loss. What causes access loss is something I call the brain hijack. When a conversation carries a certain kind of pressure, the nervous system interprets that pressure as a threat, and a threatened system reorganizes around protection. This happens fast, faster than interpretation, faster than awareness, faster than conscious decision to react. By the time you notice something shifting, the shift is already underway. And protection doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like over-explaining, going silent, trying to manage the room, trying to change the other person, trying to make the other person understand, saying what keeps the peace instead of what's true. Most people think those are communication failures. I don't. I think they're protective responses. The system has already moved away from connection and toward management. The hardest part is what happens next, because eventually your access comes back. You're driving home, laying in bed, standing in the shower, walking the dog, and suddenly you know exactly what you wanted to say, exactly what happened, exactly what you wished you would have done differently. The clarity returns. The conversation is over. And that's the part that confuses people because they know the awareness exists. They can feel it. It's right there now. So why wasn't it there when they needed it? Because awareness wasn't the first thing that disappeared. Access was. The problem isn't that you didn't know. The problem isn't that you lacked awareness. Most of the time, the clarity comes back. The question is when, because by the time it comes back, the conversation is usually already over. That's the pattern. If you're recognizing yourself in this, don't focus on the reaction next time. Don't focus on what you said. Don't focus on what the other person said. Pay attention to the moment before all of that. The moment something starts shifting, the moment access begins to narrow, that's usually where the sequence begins. And that's often the part people miss.